Daniel Kwesi Tano. Daddy, if you're here, thank you. Daddy is the bishop for the Methodist Church. Daddy, please. Thank you. Please, shall we receive Daddy?
Shall we be upstanding as we pray? Gracious and everlasting God, we want to give you the glory and the honor. We bless you for such a wonderful day like this. It is in you that we live, move, and have our being. We want to thank you for the life and vision of the organizers of this program. God, without you, we cannot do anything. Therefore, we invite you into our midst. Take absolute control over this program. We commit all the speakers into your hand and pray that, Lord, you use them to enlighten us. You use them to educate us. You use them so that, Lord, we will learn lessons from men like Dr. Busia, whom you gave to Ghana. We bless you, Lord, that we have given us traveling mercies and taken us from all places to this place. It is our prayer that, Lord, everything will go as planned, so that when we finish everything, we will have cause to say, it is the Lord who has done it. Glory and honor will be unto your name. And if there is any blessing that you have to give to us, we will receive it with praise and adoration. Thank you, Lord, for being with us. Thank you for leading us. Thank you for directing us. And thank you for this program. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Daddy. Thank you. Thank you. It goes without saying that a Mama program like this is well attended by very special people. And I will talk about a few. And in the course of time, I will add all the others. But first of all, I would want to let the House know that this program is going to be chaired by the Professor Christopher Amiel Akumfi. Prof, sorry. Okay, let me begin by introducing the chair. But before that introduction, we will call the military band to give us an anthem. And after their anthem, we will go ahead to do the introduction of guests. Thank you. Please, let's all be standing as they do the anthem. Bless you. Thank you so much, the military band. We are grateful. We're grateful. Okay, so it's time for us to take the address from the chair, but I will read a little of his profile to the House. Then after that, we will invite the chair to give us his address, after which I will come to give you the details of the guests that are amidst us this morning. As I earlier said, the program is going to be chaired by the Professor Christopher Amiel Akumfi. And this is something short. If I mean to read all his profile, we may not go today, but I'm going to read just a bit of it to the hearing of all of us. So, Professor Amiel Akumfi, the former Minister of Harbors and Railways, and the Member of Parliament for Techima North, has had an impressive record as an academic a public servant, a politician. Sorry? He's not here. Okay. All right. From? Okay. All right. Okay, so before I continue the profile of the chair, I'm told that we have to take a musical interlude from the performance from the Center for National Culture. So please, you can go on with it. Thank you. Wonderful. Let's show some love. Let's show some love, ladies and gentlemen. Let's show some love. Let's show some love. All right. So the chairman for the occasion is on his way coming. We don't want to read the his profile in his absence, but he's given us the go-ahead to. Okay, he's given us the go-ahead to have the program anyway. So. Right. So I'm told I have to read the profile so that when he comes, he can just continue with the sharing. So I'll go on to read the profile of the Professor Christopher Amiao Akumfi, then the rest will continue. Ladies and gentlemen, the Professor Amiao Akumfi, former Minister of Harbors and Railways, and the Member of Parliament for Techiman North, has had an impressive record as an academic and a public servant and a politician. He obtained his GCE or Ordinary Advanced Level certificates in 1963 and 1965, respectively, at Adisado College in Cape Coast. He had his bachelor's and master of science degrees at the University of Ghana, Legon, from 1965 to 1970. In 1972, he went abroad to study at the University of Michigan in the United States, where he obtained a PhD in zoology. He was promoted to the rank of a full professor of zoology in 1999. He has actively participated in a number of activities related to higher education in Ghana. One of his significant contributions in this regard was his chairing of the Committee to Review Staffing in the Polytechnics. Professor Amiao Akumfi has to his credit 26 publications on various topics in biology. He is a member of several professional bodies, including the Ghana Science Association, West African Science Association, and the Crustacean Society. He's a past member of the New York Academy of Sciences, as well as the International Association of Astroecologists and American Society of Zoologists. The numerous awards received by the Professor of Zoology include the University of Ghana Scholar Award, 1999-1997, and the Fulbright Scholar Marine Research Laboratory that he took from Podiga Bay University of California, US. He has served as chairman of Natural Science Committee of the National Commission on UNESCO, as well as vice chairman of the Commission 3 at the 28th UNESCO conference held in Paris, France in 1995. Until he entered full-time politics, in which he served in various capacities. Prof. Amiao Akumfi had been the Dean of the Faculty of Science, the University of Cape Coast, Pro-Vice Chancellor of the same university, Coordinator, National Science Resource Center, Policy Advisor to the Minister of Education, and Director General of the Ghana Education Service. Having carved a niche for himself in education, Professor Amiao Akumfi was appointed the first Minister of Education in the MPP government in 2001. In that capacity, he effectively supervised the takeoff of the upgrading of the 110 selected senior high schools in the country, a process that aimed at expanding access to quality education for the teeming Ghanaian youth. So this is a profile of the man we are honored to have as chairman of this function. When he comes, we will do an introduction of him, but for now, I'll call on the executive director of the Busia Institute, Mr. Anania J, to give us the welcome address. Thank you. Shall we please receive him with a clap? Please be offering clap to the person that's at the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Now that our chairman has not yet resumed his seat, I welcome everyone here on behalf of the Busia Institute for Rural and Democratic Development. We are very privileged to have in our midst the Omanhene of the Drobo traditional area and Vice President of the Bono Regional House of Chiefs, Okochiridom Sachiaku II, to be our special guest of honor. At the appropriate time, we are going to introduce all the guests here. But in the meantime, I welcome you on behalf of BIRD, and I bring you greetings from the Busia Institute. Our live patron, President J. Kufuor, His Excellency the former President, Madam Ama Busia, Bafuo Kwabrejima Osebonsu, and all the rest. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to have you here this morning for this very important occasion. Today is the first day of the 10th month in 2021. 52 years ago today, a very notable son of this soil took over as the executive prime minister of our country, Professor Kofi Busia. After a few years, his government was ousted. But everyone will bear me out that Busia had a great vision for our country. He was one person who took the flag of Ghana and Africa to the rest of the world. And so, if he's no more, should we allow his ideas and ideals to die with him? No. And that is the reason for the establishment of the Busia Institute. So every year, on 1st October, we gather to remember this great historic son of Ghana, and indeed of Africa. So today's gathering is to look back at Professor Busia, what he stood for, what he did, and what all of us can do to realize his aspirations and ideals. So without much ado, I would want to briefly say that the prime objective of BIRD is to carry out the main planks of Busia's administration, which included rural development, democracy, and youth empowerment. These are the three pillars of BIRD. And that is why this year's theme has been dedicated to the youth in a free enterprise society. And we are very fortunate to have a number of notable personalities to be our speakers, with His Excellency former President J. Kufuor being the keynote speaker. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us here in person, so he has designated another respectable son of this soil to represent him. I'm talking about the Honorable Kwajo Ajay Dakon, former Minister of State in various categories or portfolios. Then we have the Honorable Deputy Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Honorable John Kumar, who is here with us, who has come all the way from Accra to Kumasi and to join us, and he's in our midst. We have another son of this soil being a Deputy Minister of Local Government, Rural Development and Decentralization, the Honorable Ajay Kosa. Unfortunately, he has not been able to join us now, but he has asked somebody to represent him and to deliver his speech. We also have, as has been mentioned, the Honorable Professor Christopher Kumfi as the chairman for this function, and a blood of Dr. Busia in the person of Professor Nana Kusi Apia Jr., who is an assistant professor at the University of London and also a consultant to the UN. He holds so many portfolios. At the appropriate time, we will mention all. He's one of our speakers. The Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports is expected to be here this morning to talk to us about issues related to youth in this government and how this government has continued the ideas of Busia as far as the youth are concerned. We were expecting the Honorable Kojo Oponkroma, Minister of Information, but we've just had a message that the President has assigned him another role, so he's unable to join us this morning. Apart from that, everything is on course. The Honorable Regional Minister, who is the rep of the President, is at the moment not with us. But we are fortunate to have in our midst the Honorable MP for Sunyani East, Honorable Kwesi Admeya, who is also the board chair of the Bui Power Authority, to stand in for the minister. We are fortunate also to have a number of MPs and ministers and other dignified dignitaries in our midst, including my own brother, the MP for Doma East, Honorable Paul Chumbarima. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the list is long. So as the program rolls on, we will be mentioning everybody. We are very fortunate to have in our midst a number of young people from the various senior high schools and universities in the region. The young people, according to Dr. Busia, are the most valuable of Africa's resources. So we cannot have a program like this without having a number of young people here. So those of you from the senior high schools and universities here, we are happy to have you. We welcome you. Be happy that you are here. And today you are going to see Dr. Busia in video. You hear his voice, and you have all these notable people to talk to you about this great person. I was very young when my father showed me a button that had the picture of Dr. Busia and told me that he wanted me to be like him, to study, to be very diligent in my studies and become like Dr. Busia. So I entreat you also to study diligently and become like Dr. Busia. This function, as I have told you, we intend to immortalize Busia, his works, his achievements, and his ideals. So we have books on him. We have K. Busia, a symbol of democracy, which was launched by His Excellency the Vice President in 2018. We are today going to give copies of these books to all the tertiary institutions in the region, free of charge. Our aim, yes, I think we deserve the applause. We've done well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our aim is to make sure that every senior high school in Ghana gets at least a copy of the book on Dr. Busia. So by the time they leave the school campus, they may have some ideas about the man. And in so doing, we will get Busia replicated in different ways amongst our children. So at this function, we've invited all the vice chancellors of the various tertiary institutions in the region to receive copies of the books. And we wish to appeal to anybody who can help us in this cause to procure copies of these books, to donate to schools, to enable our young people to know about Busia, what he stood for, and how we can all contribute to our country's development. On that note, on behalf of the chairman who has just taken his seat, I welcome everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Mario Kiyomo once said that there is nothing superior. There is nothing on this earth to be superior to a fellow human being. True nobility is being superior to your former self. I want to believe that by the time that we exit this very door, we all are going to be superior to the former self that we entered here with. I also want to say that the program at this juncture is categorically oriented and liturgically fulfilled. I'm saying so because we are privileged to have in our midst the Bishop for the Colored Diocese for Sunyani, Most Reverend Matthew Kwesi Jamfi. Bishop, you're welcome. Again, I've also seen the just second timer, a hardworking DC for Doma East, Honorable Emmanuel Kofi Ajaman, who had 100% confirmation just the day before yesterday. Again, this all-important program is graced by Honorable Alfred Anye, former youth organizer, former regional secretary for the New Patriotic Party, and at the moment working under the ambience of PBC. Mr. Alfred, welcome. Also, Benjamin Taylor is here to do the honors for our valuable member of parliament for Techiman South, Honorable Ajay Minsa Kosa. So all these men are here to join hands with us. That is why I'm very optimistic that by the time we exit this door, we are going to be superior to our former selves. I should state that we are not done with the acknowledgement of the dignitaries among us. As at when and how we get your names, the due acknowledgement shall be revered. Again, we have Honorable Charity Foriwa Domo, former DC for time. She is a lawyer by profession, a very matured and a consummate politician, even though she never had the favor of the President of the Republic to continue. She is still here to work and help so that the ideologies of Busia and also the political leaders who believe in the center-right ideologies will live and be projected among the youth. We also have various heads from religious bodies. As we get the specifics, we will also give that to you. And we also have the secretary for the Council of Elders for the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Kwejo Afei. I am happy that if you look at the time in which we find ourselves, Honorable Kwesiami Acheme will tell you that we are in an era of confirmation of DCs, and that consolidates and confirms decentralization of our system. So if you have the likes of Honorable Kwejo Dako, who was a member of the Consultative Assembly, who sat to draft and to ensure that the 1992 Constitution came into existence, then that should tell you that indeed you are at the right forum. Just as I was speaking, I saw the second lawyer in Ghana also entering in the person of Deputy Attorney General, Lawyer Alfred Tianyeboa, Bans Akwaba. Because we are here trying to project the good deeds of this noble gentleman. It is only fair and good that we hear a bit of our local dialect. Mamenom nem papanom. Emanije pass and ne. Yeshia, near Pessia Chre, near my Busia, or ye. Ne, I am the same crown, so we moha. I was set yejitum, say Yanswa bonofo, Yanso Sabe, Yenimde, Yetimi Yobribi Mani ye. Papa, walking kind and sama. O shakete, no shasi actually near my pea, no timio. Ti yeshia hey, Sania, ndi kan, Pese be free ha kono. Ne Sania yesiba hano, yes, I near the beko, Madam Wase.
Thank you. Everything is going well in this house except your applause. Yes. When Bishop's name was mentioned, and I quantified the applause that came out, like maybe many people here don't know Bishop. In his realm and in our realm here, that's a big man. So please, when we mention the names, kindly let's applaud them. Let's give them the necessary dignity. Somebody told me that sometimes past, even to see a professor, you could be in a university and may hardly get a professor to teach you. But today we are very privileged We see them everywhere, but we will not take that for granted. On that note, I want to introduce to the House the chairman of the function. He would come to give us an address, but before that, he will have to accept whether he is taking the honor of being the chairman for this event. With a stand ovation, shall we welcome to the podium the Professor Christopher Amiel Akunfi. Please be clapped till he's there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be here. I would rather make comments at the end of the deliveries, because the man we are celebrating became our mentor. But before he became my mentor, I have this sad story to tell. At age 5, maybe 7, I used to hear young men who had gone to the Kumasi end of the Kumasi Wenchi Road in Techiman come to my father's palace to report on how they have succeeded to place locks across the road in the cemetery area. Who was the person they were blocking? It was Professor Busia, preventing him from continuing with his journey. As a young boy, I asked simply, why did they do that? Of course, nobody cared to give me an answer. But later, I discovered that it was one of those episodes that always involved the Matthew Horns and the CPP. And my father was a staunch CPP. So I understood. That was how politics was being practiced then. And you know, I thought we had moved several years away from that period. We still have such incidents. I pray that as we learn more about such humble people as Professor Busia, we'll get to understand that politics can be done in peace. An aspect of Professor Busia's life which shouldn't be lost on us is that he was a super academic. A super academic in the real sense. If you look at what he produced, the contents of his writings, you would definitely come to agree with me. I wouldn't want to make speeches because we've lined up a number of brilliant minds that are going to share their views with us. But for now, let me simply say that it is indeed an honor to be called upon to chair an event that celebrates my mentor. I thank you.
I feel we can do it better for our chairman. During the era of President Kufuor's administration, he championed and campaigned the upgrading of the hitherto training colleges to colleges of education. If you can recall, in the yesteryears, the certificate that was being awarded was Certificate A. It was under his tutelage that Ghana saw the need to upgrade it to diploma level, and the progression has not ceased since then. We now have our colleges of education as degree awarded institutions. Professor, thank you. Thank you. You are a blessing to the region. You are a blessing to Ghana. And you are a blessing to the world. From a celebrated professor of a chairman to another wonderful politician. He is a lawyer, former majority chief whip, former leader from Ghana on ECOWAS Parliament. He's one of the few members of Parliament whose vote appreciate every election year, of which 2020 was of no exception. Join me, House, respectfully, to welcome on stage the Member of Parliament for Sunyani East and the board chair for Bui, Honorable Lawyer Kwesi Ame-Acheme. That is the fine gentleman walking upstage. He is also the Chief Executive Officer for Nimdie FM.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Honorable Chairman of the occasion, Professor Christopher Ame-Acheme, the representative of the former President of Ghana, President J. Kufuor, Honorable Kwaju Eje Darkon, the special guest of the occasion, Omahine of Drobo Traditional Area, and Vice President of the Bruno Regional House of Chiefs, Nananom, Honorable Ministers of State, Honorable Members of Parliament who are here with us, the leadership and members of the Busia Institute, the clergy, students from various institutions of learning who are here with us, heads of department, representatives of political parties, the media, invited guests, or other protocols observed. The regional minister ought to have been here. I think she gave her word to be with the program this morning. But I think we are all very much aware of the fact that the confirmation of district chief executives is ongoing. So today she has to be somewhere. I received a personal invitation to be part of the program And when she got to know that I'll be here, she requested me to read her speech on her behalf. I'm reading this speech on behalf of the regional minister. Professor Chairman, I wish to express a sincere appreciation to the Busia Institute for choosing Sunyani, and for that matter, the Bono region as the venue for this year's Busia Memorial Lecture. Amongst other things, the young people in our region too will be inspired by the personality and the life of Professor Busia and what he stood for. I am very much delighted to be a part of this historic event, which commemorates the life and works of a seminal figure in Ghanaian history. Professor K.A. Busia. Whilst growing up, almost every parent who loved education wanted their children to be like Professor Busia. Many people may have fond memories of the great stories that were told about the late professor, including the creative acronym for the name BUSIA, as the best university scholar in Africa. Indeed, we understand why our teachers, parents, and many people revered Professor Busia so much. He left footprints as a respected scholar and politician, as he became the first African professor and somebody who lifted high the flag of Africa in politics and academia. In politics, his contributions and policies during his period as leader of the opposition and later as prime minister are very much refreshing and inspiring. As prime minister, his government prioritized rural development with the intention of empowering everyone to make meaningful contributions to national development, irrespective of their location in the country. And I must add that those of us who have been involved in politics and have traveled the length of our region, the Brong-Ahafo region, there's no community where you get to and you will not see a legacy of Professor Busia, even though his reign was just about 2.5 years. So the coup makers, they don't help this country. If he had been allowed to continue his government, Ghana would have been better. Professor Busia's view of the human being was that everyone was significantly important and everyone's contributions to national development was critical. No wonder, according to him, an intellectual is a person who has learned to use his brains, who applies his mind to problems and ideas and tries to understand them. To that extent, he said there are many illiterates who are intellectuals, intellectual illiterates. What a refreshing statement from such a great man. Professor Chairman, in appreciation of the massive contributions of Professor Busia to his country, his continent, and indeed the world, the Bono Regional Coordinating Council, in collaboration with the Sunyani Municipal Assembly, and all other key stakeholders have honored the memory of Professor Busia in Sunyani, the capital of his home region. The street from the post office roundabout to the Fiapre, that's Yone roundabout, as the Professor K.A. Busia Road. In this way, we think we are further encouraging the youth to learn and explore more about Professor Busia's life, to immortalize him, and to also ensure that his works are emulated by every one of us, especially the youth. To the young people who are here with us, and those young people who may be with us electronically, we must give thought to the topic for this celebration, which is the youth in a free enterprise society. And we must endeavor to make maximum benefit from the presentations that our resource persons will be giving to us. We must remember that though he was a royal, he was very humble. He was very religious, and many thought he should have been a reverend minister in the Methodist Church. He was a preacher. He was a researcher. He was a politician. He was a statesman. He was a scholar. And he was a visionary leader. He saw beyond his days, and he believed in the youth. So in his government, he appointed President John Ajekum Kufuor, a very young lawyer, aged 27, to be a deputy minister of local government and rural development. He did not make a mistake, because he saw some potential in the then young John Ajekum Kufuor. Eventually, that young man became the president of Ghana. So when we say that Professor Busia was visionary, no one can doubt it. Professor Chairman, on behalf of the Bron Regional Coordinating Council, the regional minister welcomes everyone and wish that we have successful celebration. Thank you. I'm most grateful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable Amayo Chairman. We are up to take an address from our special guest of honor. We are entering royalty. As a result, we will let the cultural troupe give Nana a befitting welcome. Before that, I will read his profile before I call him to the podium. So for now, we will take something short from the cultural troupe. Then I will read. Okay, so as they make preparations, I'll go ahead to read the profile of Nana. After that, we shall take, please wait. Okay, hello. Okay, hello, please use the stop for now. Okay, so as you make preparations, I will go ahead to read the profile, then we shall have them come in. Ladies and gentlemen, I read to you the profile of Okon Chiridom Sechi Akon II, Omanhene of the Drobo traditional area, council rather, and he is the chairman or the president of the Bungahafo Regional House, of the Bono House of Chiefs. Now, the man we know as Okochiridom Sechi Akon II is privately known as Wilson Bene. He was born on October 1954. By profession, Nana is an economist. In terms of education, he holds an MSc in Development Policy and Planning from the KNUST. He holds a BA Honors from the University of Cape Coast, a diploma in education from the same university, a diploma in project management from the Galilee International Management Institution. Nana has done a lot of work in his profession. In October 2020, he was named, he served as the vice president of the Bono Regional House of Chiefs. Somewhere in May 2018, he also became the Drobo Omanhene and president of the Drobo Traditional Council. From 2013 to 2017, Nana also served. Hello? Okay, can we have some silence, please? Thank you. He also served in the institution. Okay, he served in a lot of boards. In fact, the list is so long, and so I will read just a bit of it so that I can invite him to the podium. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let me welcome to the podium Okon Chiridom Akon II, Nana of Drobo Traditional Council. Please, Nana, let's have you. But before Nana comes, we're going to have the cultural troupe do. Please, shall we please stand? Shall we please stand?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Honorable Chairman, Professor Christopher Amiyao Akumfi, the representative of President Kufuor, Honorable Kojoje Dako, Nananom, ministers, honorable ministers and deputy ministers of state, honorable MPs present, members of the Busia Institute, the clergy, other religious leaders present, distinguished guests, representatives of political parties, my dear students, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. I bring you warm greetings from Nananom at the Bruno Regional House of Chiefs. Nananom appreciates the decision of the organizers to make us part of this program. It is indeed a great pleasure of Nananom and to me personally to be involved in this memorial lecture for 2021. This is so for a number of reasons, but Prof. Chairman, allow me to mention two. First, it gives Nananom the opportunity to participate in this forum. And secondly, it gives me the opportunity to share my personal experience with the youth. Professor Chairman, as chiefs, we appreciate when a son of this soil goes out to bring honors to Ghana and the world at large. And Professor Busia was one of such persons. His exploits in academia and politics sets a standard for others who may want to tread on those paths. His was politics of decency and respect for others, including even his opponents. He declared on August 1st, 1957, that democracy is a form of government based on ethics. At any rate, he believed that real democracy flourished only in an atmosphere of kindness, affection, benevolence, and sympathy. Distinguished audience, if I'm given the chance to summarize my personal impression about the ideals Professor Busia stood and lived for, I will not hesitate to mention the following: humility, true democracy, respect for constitutional order, economic independence of the nation, strong passion for rural infrastructural development, and effective strategy for fighting corruption. Professor Busia was the first to introduce rural development as a definite government policy in the history of Ghana. Prof. Chairman, on September 7th, 1971, he had this to say, and you could see that he was very passionate about it. I quote, "I know there are people living in Accra who say my government is a Bush government.
And I'm a bushman. I like it, you know. I don't mind this, and I don't feel sorry. It is true that I come from the bush. I am a bushman. I have sympathy for the bush people. When you go to them in their hometown, in the bush, and see his children around him living in death, living in darkness, when he has helped you to do what you are doing, what does your conscience tell you? My government has committed itself to the people of Ghana to modernize. The rural areas of the country is where the majority of the people reside. To provide good drinking water, health and sanitary facilities, extend rural electrification, and expand education facilities in a determined effort to bridge the gap between the rural and urban areas, to correct the imbalances in the development of the country is our focus. We could see that he was very, very passionate about this, and because of that, he set up the Ministry of Rural Development. And since then, every politician started talking about rural development at the center of their policies. But as Honorable Chairman said, if you walk along the length and breadth of this country, you can see evidence of something that he put in the rural area. Even today, he had only 27 months in office, but what he did is still valid. In my district, for example, the water systems he put up are still being used after so many years that it was put up. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we commemorate Professor K.A. Busia today, let us all reflect on what we also can do to enhance our society for the benefits of the present generation and posterity, such that in future we shall be remembered by our works and words, like we are remembering him now. And ladies and gentlemen, let me share a personal experience. When I was a kid in primary school, we heard a lot. I can say there were myths, but I remember two of them. The first was that he's a super brain, and that even if the whites are going to meet him at Oxford, they carry dictionaries. Because the words he will use, the Englishmen themselves didn't understand. We were also told in that myth that even he is among the few selected super brains who have entered contractual agreement that when they are called home, their brains will be used to manufacture brain pills to be taken by students who want to excel. These were myths that we had. My personal experience was when I was in secondary school. I was in Form 2, Form 3, thereabout. We were asked to meet him at Cultural Center, Kumasi, for a speech. When we were going with this myth in our heads, we were contemplating, how can we go and listen to this professor and understand what he tells us? But to our surprise, when we went there, we came back saying, but we understood everything he said. He was so humble, came to our level as students, spoke in a language that we could understand. And that was the first time I got the impression that here is a humble man. My second impression about him was when during his tenure as Prime Minister between 1969 and 1972. It was very common to see posters in all government offices saying, do not accept gifts. They corrupt. I happened to read one of it at the regional administration here in Sunyani, and it had a lasting effect on me. Since then till today, I have come to believe that gifts are bribes, or they can be transformed into bribes. So I swore to myself never to take gifts in any official capacity. And I've lived to this principle to today. As I make this open statement, public statement, contractors I've worked with when I was a project manager, some in Sunyani here, all over Brahavo, almost all over Ghana, I never accepted anything from them as gifts. When they bring envelopes to me as gifts, at first I told them to go away with it, and they were resisting. So I adapted the tactics that if you bring the envelope, I tell you, I've received it, I thank you, but take it and go and give to your wife and children. That Mr. Bennett says he gives it to them. And it scared them, and they stopped. Nobody attempted to give me said gifts again. So my dear students who are in our midst today, I was like you when I developed this humility and flawless in terms of corruption, bribe taking, when I was a kid like you. So I will enjoin all of you to read more, listen more, and learn more about this great man so that your lives will be permanently shaped for you to be very good citizens and offer the best to the nation. Distinguished audience, I wish to say that all of us must endeavor to build and unite, but not to ruin and disintegrate Ghana. Thank you for listening.
I think we can show more love. Let's do it for Nana once again. Nana, thank you very much. Thank you, Nana. Okocheredom Sechi Akon II. That was indeed a great speech. Remember that I've said that there is nothing noble being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. I want to believe these fantastic speeches that we are assimilating is indeed going to make us superior to our former self in a very positive way. Our men and women in uniform, are we ready? Yes. Let's get a miracle from you. Thank you. At this juncture, we want to zoom into pure politics. I'll call on stage the Deputy Regional Youth Organizer of the New Patriotic Party in the person of Shadrach Abrifa Mensah. That is the gentleman coming. Let's show him some love. As Shadrach walks on stage, let me also acknowledge the presence of Director Ransford Kofi Eboa Entry. He happens to be the CEO for Sun City Radio, also Sun City Imperial Lodge Hotel. Shaq.
Thank you so much. Professor Chairman, Professor Christopher Amiyao Akumfi, the Vice Chairman for the Bono Traditional Council or the Bono Regional House of Chiefs, distinguished ministers of state, members of parliament, government officials, heads of institutions, the clergy, Nananom, students of the Bono region, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the regional chairman, the executives, and members of the Bono Regional New Patriotic Party, I respectfully salute everyone for making time to attend this very important occasion. We believe this is an opportune time to commemorate Dr. K. Busia. I have been chosen to speak on behalf of the New Patriotic Chairman, Professor Chairman, New Patriotic Party, Prof, due to the theme and the focus of this year's lecture, a solemn theme, the youth in a free enterprise society. Mr. Chairman, we as a party are so happy to be associated to this lecture, not because of the high-profile individuals who are here today, but because it affords us the chance as people to look back where we have come from and also give us an opportunity to look into the future where we are going as a political party. Professor Chairman, it is also so joyful that under this administration of His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President and government continues to work towards achieving the aims and objectives of Dr. Kofi Abrifa Busia. Notably, the rural programs that under the Progress Party he established in ensuring that we took steps in curbing the rural-urban migration of the time. Professor Chairman, when we want to zoom in looking at areas where to be mentored by the achievement of the Progress Party, we cannot run away from the One District, One Factory initiative and the Planting for Food and Job program under His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. On the academic front, ladies and gentlemen, the free senior high school education is something we cannot talk about or leave it at all. We believe that the younger people of our region and the younger people of our country have been empowered. We therefore take advantage to employ all younger people to take advantage of government programs and projects to be able to have impact in whatever we do as a country. On this note, Mr. Professor Chair, I would want to say a word that Dr. Kofi Abrifa Busia said in his own mind and words. And I quote, "The first essential requirement for progress is the development of the human being. We must offer opportunities for the development of all. All the human potentialities within the nation. A primary condition is to extend at least education to every child within our country. Without this, the nurturing of his potentiality is limited in the service and effective citizenship that is close by to you." Professor Chair, distinguished members of parliament and state officials, I wish to enjoin my fellow young people in the region and from other places who are here gathered to explore the programs that the government have tailored to benefit the younger people of our country, and more importantly, to take advantage of them for the greater good of all of us. Professor Chair, distinguished invited guests, I thank you for your attention, and may God bless all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Youth Organizer. It is also his quest to contest for the substantive regional organizership when the time is due. It is true, incontrovertibly, it is uncontestable that the youth of this country are carefully being empowered. I believe that the best policy ever to happen to Ghana is the almighty free SHS. My interest is not on the accessibility, but it's got to do with the equity and the quality of it. Those of us, if I'm to borrow the words of Nana, those of us from the bush, in the yesteryears, we struggled in getting access to the grade A schools, but with the equity aspect of the free SHS. That is why you get a young girl from my village, Chra, going to Achimota Senior High. So, Shadrach, it is true that indeed the youth are being empowered. We are moving from the regional circles to MPP National. Once again, he's a son of this region. He is also a lawyer. He is the deputy chief scribe for the New Patriotic Party. Where he hails from is so popular than his name. I don't know whether to call him the senior Abronye or the original Abronye. Let's welcome on stage Lawyer Nana Obiri Boahe, Abronye Senior, to give us a speech from the ambience of the New Patriotic Party. I think we can do more. He's a great man. They've held the fort for this party for years. Before I hand over the microphone to him, it is fair and also good to acknowledge the presence of the former deputy, former regional minister of the hitherto Bronga Hafo, and now a member of parliament and also deputy minister for youth and sports. Honorable Evans Opokubuye, you are welcome.
Well, you took me by surprise. Professor Chairman, Nananom, Ministers of State, Chiefs, Elders, Clergy, Party members, actually every individual herein assembled. It's my humble prayer that I make it known to you that it's taking me by surprise, because I felt that after the deputy youth has made his presentation for and on behalf of the MPP, that is the end of the matter. That notwithstanding, I believe that I will just add a word or two. In making my presentation, Professor Chairman and Nananom, permit me to depart a little from the normal trend, because I don't see how we are organizing a lecture and memory of Professor Busia, and we will not use our dialect over here. Before Kasabi said, Yedru Amam François, Naya Kayan, Na Yedinay, Yemu Bebre, the Papa, me Mama Samoma. I would say this year, 2009, just after the change of government, serious attempts were made to change the name of Professor Busia's Act, that's the Jubilee Park, to a different name altogether. And those who spearheaded this unfortunate incident were all thoroughbred Bron Ahafo people. Binim Bayer said 209, better be Sam Busia Dinino. Now, but they are coding for Jubilee Park. Barnabedia Nimupa say any Busia didn't film no. Now I have brought for paying for pa, including even the then regional minister. I said to myself, sir, young Emanan say. So I took the matter to court, High Court. And upon the intervention of the Roman Catholic bishop and other priests, the matter was settled out of court. 209 na ya kwachi Professor Busia de yebu binim no yenya de dirim monne yenya de dirim mochna migina ha ma New Patriotic Party Busia ni MPP ni Busia oye Roman panyina nka ye beka so oye sentiman. You cannot talk of the New Patriotic Party without achieving or giving recognition to the role played by Busia, the role played by Dankwa, and the role played by Dombo. It's like a tripod. Busia, Dankwa, Dombo, et sabochia. Miyansa. We bakufluwa, udi BBC swenye ye. And one by that church PPA, Yanina Bedrusi Sabraha. Yadabase, Yabedibachi, me Mama Samonwa. So you took me by surprise. So on behalf of the New Patriotic Party, we welcome all of you, and to the organizers, more grace to your elbows. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Okay, so it is time for, a few years ago when we were launching the book on Busia, on Dr. Busia, I couldn't make it to Accra, so Mr. Ajay sent me some videos, and I think I must have watched some elsewhere also. And when it was time for ex-President Kufuor to give some remarks, like we've heard already, he was in the government of the late Dr. Busia. One could see how passionate he was. I think to a point he shed tears. I'm the proofreader for this organization, and I proofread books, but there are books you proofread and you stop, as if it were yours. And I could go to Nana several times, not severally, several times. And I'm like, I cannot read the book, I cannot proofread that fast because I'm too engrossed in the book. I did government at the Sunyani, now the Sunyani Senior High School, a few years back. And we heard about many people, but we could never had enough of Busia. It was always a summary. So to get that book, to know his life, was something that was really important to me. Now, we are about to have the keynote address or to hear from former President J.A. Kufuor. For some reasons, he could not make it. But because of his love for Dr. Busia, he has a video. He has delivered his speech in a video that we are going to watch briefly. So normally when people are not able to come, they just give their speech. He says he would want to, you know, the man is aged now. He would want to do that in a video, so we watch. To do a short, to represent him, he wasn't just unable to come, he gave us a representative. This is in the person of the Honorable Kwadwo Ajay Darko, former MP for Sunyani West and former Minister of Roads and Highways, and also for Mines. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let's invite to the podium the Honorable Ajay Darko, Kwadwo Ajay Darko. Please, let's keep clapping. Please, let's keep clapping. Thank you. He's in the shoes of the former president. So he takes over all the dignitary that we would have given the former president. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, MC. Nana Obriwahi has thrown a challenge. So I don't know whether to follow him or follow the normal thing we've been doing. Honorable Chairman, Professor Amir Kunfi, Omahine of Drobo Traditional Council, who is also the Vice Chair of Bono House of Chiefs, who was incidentally the Regional Research Officer for MPP when I was the Regional Chairman. So he's not just here as a chief, but Nananominya politics in Tian Kanakasi. Honorable ministers and deputy ministers, honorable members of parliament, my lord bishops and the clergy, Nananom party executives and representatives of various political parties, members of the Busia Institute, the press, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency President Kufuor, you see, Ghana, we are very fond of ex-president. America, once a president, always a president. So if I say President Kufuor, it doesn't mean he's a current, but we can address him such a way. We would have loved to be here with you, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. And although I had invitation initially to attend this function, I also had a call from him yesterday that I should represent him. But before his message is delivered, I will just make a brief remark. Busia as a politician, it has always been said that he symbolized tolerance and humility. Unfortunately, history and historians in Ghana have not been fair to Busia. We either try to cover the good things which emanated from this great man, or we attribute it to others. When South Africa was fighting about apartheid, a lot of African leaders said we should go to war. Busia, being a person of humility, he was the only person who said the issue or the problem at hand could be solved through dialogue. Incidentally, his own party people who were in power with him, some stood against him, and he had even a nickname, Mr. Dialogue. But everybody knows that South Africa eventually became free through dialogue. It has been said already that Busia introduced the Rural Development Ministry. I quite also remember that when we were young, during the UPCPP era, people used to call the CPP people, sorry, the UP people, Domo Akrachifo. Miji se ye nyina yerim Domo eye emre. People didn't understand the word democracy, so they called the UP people Domo Akrachifo. And now when we talk about democracy, we don't attribute it to Busia and his group, but from other people who came to power through guns. And that is why I said history has not been fair to Busia. Democracy, the origin, is what I'm telling you. And we used to call the UP people Domo Akrachifo. And Okotwaba, when in the late 60s and early 70s, Busia introduced or promoted the plantation of teak trees. People were saying, he was looking far ahead, and now because of the climate change, everybody is talking about mitigation factors. And one of the mitigation factors or processes is afforestation. So we see the type of leader we have. I am standing in for His Excellency President Kufuor. So I don't want to bore you with anything long. He is here with us in spirit, in the sense that his message is already on pen drive, and we will therefore listen to him. Thank you.
Right, so without any further ado, we shall watch the video. Thank you.
It's an anniversary for us to remember Professor Kofi Busia, who, in addition to his academic and administrative achievements for our nation, even way before we attained independence, also rose to become the Prime Minister of the nation in the Second Republic. And that was from September of 1969 to January 13th, 1972. It was in his administration that I would say cut my political teeth in politics, because I was elected to Parliament in 1969 as member of Parliament of his party, Progress Party, and at the tender age of 30, moving to 31, in spite of my youthfulness, he appointed me as the Deputy Foreign Minister of our nation. You can imagine at the age of 30 being so privileged. That's what Busia made me. But even before that, this great man had been my referee to go to Oxford University in 1961. I studied at Oxford, where he himself had studied. I think he was a student from 1942 or thereabouts, and did his doctorate there too. He gave me the testimonial to go to Oxford, 61, where I studied for the first year law, then second, third years I did philosophy, politics, and economics. That time he was in exile. He had been the opposition leader till he had to go into exile, I believe 58, 59 or so in Holland. And it was from Holland he visited London, 60. That time I was finishing my professional qualification bar. And from there, my aspiration was to go to Oxford to continue studies. And the good professor saw it fit to give me the reference to go to Oxford. Then, after my studies, I returned home 65 January. Exactly a year after that, 66 February, the then government was overthrown, which allowed the professor to come back to Ghana to launch this civic education program for Ghana to let people appreciate our civic duties and also to prepare the nation for democratic governance, which happened in '69 and which led him to become Prime Minister of our nation. And as I've told you already, that it was during that time I began my political career, and I started off as the Deputy Foreign Minister of Ghana and Member of Parliament. The philosophy of the great man, the little I could glean, because if we want to really go into detail, then it might take tomes. You would have to write books about Busia. But essentially, what I saw of him was that he believed essentially in the dignity of man. And it was because of that he upheld democracy as the system of governance for all humanity, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of status in society. To him, once you were a man, a human being, then you were entitled to respect. Of course, provided that within the enlightened laws that a community would agree in terms of constitution. If you abuse your entitlements, then of course the law would have to treat with you. That's what is meant by rule of law. He upheld that to underpin the pursuit of good governance through democracy, inclusively taking everybody into account. That was Busia. And when we were in government, he did everything. Unfortunately, time we assumed government, 2069, the economy of Ghana was in shambles. To correct that, he had to impose some discipline to make headway in terms of macroeconomic management. And also, to boot, he made a statement that the wealth of the country had been generated from the rural parts. But this government, when you talked of the country or the nation, it tended to be all about the big towns and cities, Accra, Kumasi, Sekandi, Chakwadi, Cape Coast, Tamale. But the rural parts were ignored. So within the short period of 2.5 years, he launched a ministry called Rural Development Ministry. And with it, he launched a program to do the feeder roads all over the place, to open up the country, and also to dot the country strategically with health centers, potable water. Today is a very great day, I believe, in the annals of our nation, Ghana. Great because it's an anniversary for us to remember Professor Kofi Abrefa Busia, who, in addition to his academic and administrative achievements for our nation, even way before we attained independence, also rose to become the Prime Minister of the nation in the Second Republic. And that was from September of 1969 to January 13th, 1972. It was in his administration that I would say, cut my political teeth in politics because I was elected to Parliament in 1969 as member of Parliament of his party, Progress Party, and at a tender age of 30, moving to 31, and in spite of my youthfulness, he appointed me as the Deputy Foreign Minister of our nation. You can imagine at the age of 30 being so privileged. That's what Busia made me. But even before that, this great man had been my referee
Okay,
to
ladies
go
and
to
gentlemen,
Oxford
as you
University
can see, we having a restart of
in
the same
1961.
speech. As a result, we will
I
go.
studied at Oxford,
Please, you may pause
while
it
he
now.
himself had studied. I think he was a student from 1942.
Okay, thank you. So he has given us a prelude to the main man for whose reason we are here today. We're about to hear and watch Dr. Busia. Those of us who have never heard his voice before, we want to see the man and hear him talk to us. On that note, let us have a watch at Dr. Busia in his own words. Thank you.
Everyone knows the dangers and challenges of our time. The dangers of once again being enslaved by greedy, faithless, unprincipled men who see politics only as a means of amassing wealth dishonestly and abusing power. We of the Progress Party address ourselves and invite all of our fellow citizens, young and old. We must join to achieve the goals and aspirations of the revolution. The motto of the Progress Party is progress in unity, liberty, and justice. To progress in unity, liberty, and justice, build a democratic nation that will give unmistakable evidence of progress in every aspect of our life, in probity and efficiency in our public life, in love and active sympathy in our social relations, in widening freedom and justice, in good government, in productive agriculture and industry, in raising standards of living and well-being, in stability and peace, and in an ever-growing contribution to the common heritage and interdependent life of the world's community of nations and people. Let us acquit ourselves as worthy and respectable members of the proud pageant of mankind.
Dr. Busia, what's the size of the problem that the Ghanaian government has inherited from the Kwame Nkrumah regime?
So, take first the economic problem. At independence, we had more than 200 million pounds in reserve. At the time of the coup, at the end of the Nkrumah regime, we had debts totaling over 250 million pounds. In fact, we do not yet know exactly how much we owe because certain agreements signed, and we've not been able to collect all the figures, in fact, about these. Then also we have shortage of essential goods, food and milk and essential items. And everywhere on the political level, we have to deal with the fact that democratic rule in Ghana was completely shattered by Nkrumah.
How is the new government tackling these problems?
There has just been a new budget, a deflationary budget, in which the government makes every effort to cut down on government expenditure, cut down on missions abroad, cut out various prestige projects in an effort to deal with the economic situation. And then there's the building of feeder roads in order to aid the distribution of food and also to employ some of the people who must be laid off in the pruning exercise that we have to do.
There is likely to be a good deal of unemployment, is there?
Yes, a sizable one, and this will constitute a problem for some time before we are able to deal with it satisfactorily. But as I indicated, some of them will be put on new jobs in agriculture, in road building, in useful works that will add to productivity.
What are the prospects of a return to civilian rule?
As you know, I speak as a member of the political committee, yes, which is one step that the National Liberation has taken to cooperate with civilians. We hope soon a Constitution Commission will be announced, and this commission will be charged with drawing up a draft constitution. Then we hope this will be discussed by the Constituent Assembly, and then the Constitution will be promulgated, on the basis of which we hope to have elections.
Is there any date for this yet?
No date has been fixed. We hope that this exercise will be through between 1 and 2 years at the most, so that we shall have a return to representative civilian rule.
Now, Dr. Busia, for many years you were the voice in exile in Britain of the opposition in Ghana. I believe, in fact, this is the first time you've been in the Ghana High Commission, sitting where you are today. How does it feel?
Well, yes, it does feel strange to as I say, set foot in these one's holy grounds that I wouldn't have dared to enter. But it is a sign of the new change in Ghana.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Busia.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think the room, the size of the room made us, and maybe how old the video is, made us have a little bit of an effect on the audio. But thank you for trying to hear his words and all that. Perhaps next year we have to do a transcription, if like a subtitling underneath for people, just in case that the audio is not too clear. Thank you. So at this point, we are going to have one more speech or address. We have the Honorable John Kumar. He is a lawyer and MP for the Ejisu constituency. He is going to give us an address. Shall we please receive lawyer John Kumar? I think he's a Deputy Minister of Finance as well. Thank you. We want to say that after here, we have a part 2. So we're going to hurry things up so that we can go and have the part 2 at the Jubilee Park. And I'll give you updates on that. Lawyer?
Thank you. Professor Chairman, Professor Emile Konfi, our special guest of honor, His Royal Highness Okuchiri Dom Sechi Ado II, Vice President of the Bono Regional House of Chiefs, representative of His Excellency President J. Kufuor, the Honorable Kojo Ejeda Kun, Nananom, colleague ministers of state and members of parliament here present, members of the Busia Institute, our respected clergy, students from the various tertiary and second cycle institutions, heads of departments, representative of various political parties, our media colleagues, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel so much at home whenever I come to Sunyani. and indeed Sunyani is my home. It was here that I was cut. It was here that I also cut my academic teeth, being a proud product of the famous Rapid Preparatory International School. Thank you. But beyond that, Sunyani occupies an important position in Ghana's political history. It is the capital of Dr. K. Busia's home region, which is the Bono region, which until recently was the Bono Ahafo region. After Dr. Busia, Ghana has been blessed with a host of eminent people from this place who were also inspired by the exploits of Dr. Busia. These include the Venerable J.H. Mensah, the Honorable Kwejo Ejei Dakon, Ernest Akobo Deborah, the professor himself, who is our chairman today, Professor Christopher Amia Konfi, the Honorable Kweku Asumachreme, the Honorable Ignatius Bafwewa, and many, many, many others who continue to inspire us, including my senior, the Honorable Chreme, who is with us today. Exactly 52 years ago in 1969, the world witnessed a very colorful and historic event in Ghana. The inauguration of the second Republican government led by Dr. J.K. Busia, following the landslide victory of his Progress Party in that year's election, winning 105 of the then 140 seats in Parliament. As per the 1969 Constitution arrangement, Ghana adopted a parliamentary system of administration with two heads of the executive. We therefore had a ceremonial president and head of state and a prime minister, which was the head of government, and who therefore wielded the executive power. Ghana was at peace with itself in being administered by Dr. Kofi Abrefa Busia, who had distinguished himself in various spheres of life as an academic, a statesman, and a politician. He had an impeccable record as a public figure and was internationally known to be a man of integrity. Busia quickly assembled a team of notable brains to form his government and hit the ground running. His policies were human-centered in nature and futuristic in outlook. As a generational thinker, he thought not only of the next election, but the next generation. Unfortunately, some people could not understand him or were too hungry for power and therefore ousted the government in just 27 months. The Busia administration was noted for youth development and job creation. I am glad that this year's Busia Memorial Lecture is focusing on the youth, and gladder to see many young people here. Busia's governance model appears to be the standard all over the world. Multi-party democracy instead of one-partyism, free enterprise, rule of law, respect for human rights, etc. Professor Chairman, the main policy of Busia's government on youth development was the Ministry of Rural Development and Youth. Page 143 of the book K. Busia, A Symbol of Democracy, succinctly summarizes the motive for this youth policy. The Rural Development Program hinged, I'm quoting the book, the Rural Development Program hinged on fairness, opportunity, and development with health, agriculture, education, and infrastructure development as the main prongs. To ensure sustainability of the program, the Prime Minister and his ministers cut their salaries to support its funding. A rural development levy was also instituted, for which some amount of money was deducted from workers' salary. Every community in Ghana, notably the rural areas, have evidence by way of roads, health facilities, post office, pipe-borne water, markets, and several amenities that can be traced to Busia's era. Besides the uneven distribution of social services that had persisted since the colonial days, Busia was aware that rural-urban migration could be reversed if the youth in rural areas were provided with the same amenities, services, and opportunities available in urban communities. He opined that irrespective of where one lived, given the right environment and opportunity, they could make meaningful contributions to our national development. The Rural Development Program aimed, amongst other things, at fairness, opportunity and development with health, agriculture and education infrastructure development as the main spines. As a way of demonstrating his commitment to this, a rural development levy was also instituted. Ladies and gentlemen, Busia aimed at the types of Sir Sam Bennett, the owner of this very facility, all over the country. I have cited the title of Sir Sam Bennett's biography, In Search of Greener Pastures, in which he said Ghana had greener pastures than anywhere else. And that is why I like the theme for this event. I should mention also that the Rural Development Program, to a large extent, enhanced participatory democracy, deepening decentralization of governance and development is a key tool to releasing and sharing the financial resources of the state to ensure inclusive growth and eradication of poverty. It is in this respect that we must look at the call for reforms on the current district assembly concept and the need to increase the funding to local assemblies to promote rapid development, with emphasis on youth and job creation at the district levels. The arrangement of the Akufo-Addo administration for MMDCs to be elected, aimed at helping to ensure much participation of the people and accountability of office holders, must be critically looked at and embraced by all. The organizers of this event chose the appropriate theme, and it's timely: the youth in free enterprise society. And I am speaking on the sub-theme, fixing the country, the need for a paradigm shift. Professor Chairman, free enterprise as an economic term refers to free market economy. That is an economic system whereby prices of goods are determined by the forces of demand and supply. Simply put, in a free enterprise, people are allowed to produce, sell, and import and export all manner of goods with limited restrictions or interference by the state. In trade, free enterprise breaks the monopoly of a single producer or importer of a commodity. This promotes healthy competition and consequently leads to efficiency in the production of goods and services. Secondly, free enterprise enables consumers to select from the wide range of commodities and services. To that extent, price disparities tend to favor consumers. More so, free enterprise has led to proliferation of businesses or companies controlled by private individuals. This has created jobs for many people in Ghana, in agriculture, in banking, manufacturing industry, construction, and many others. Free enterprise has promoted foreign direct investment, and today we have giant companies like MTN, Unilever, Tala Oil. Apart from creating jobs for Ghanaians, such FDIs have also brought new technology in the way businesses are run. Furthermore, free enterprise enables government to generate revenue through taxation from such business entities. Now, the paradigm shift. Professor Chairman, fixing the country, the need for a paradigm shift, is a direct call to Ghanaian youth. Gone are the days when companies pitch camps to draw students, leaving colleges and universities into their fold for immediate employment. The new trend across the globe is to encourage and empower young people to create wealth by solving problems. As we witnessed at the state of the Akufo-Addo administration in 2017, several university graduates had been without jobs for many years. They could therefore not help but form an association of unemployed graduates. But for the establishment of the Nation Builders Corps, NAPCO, which absorbed some 100,000 Ghanaian young men and women and other creative interventions of the government, many of those brilliant youth will still have been hanging around. The aim of the Akufo-Addo administration, which is continuation of Kufuor's golden age of business, is to get the youth empowered to become job creators and less of job seekers. It is when the youth can create their jobs and provide opportunities for their fellow young people that we can move towards the president's vision of Ghana beyond aid, which has been hailed globally. We have been very busy as a government since January 2017, working to empower more young people to enhance their creative and innovative capabilities. As young people, you can create jobs and make wealth by taking advantage of the laissez-faire economic system. Our prime focus is to encourage entrepreneurship among the youth as we strive to create the needed conducive environment for businesses to not only spring up, but to thrive as well. The youth ought to take advantage of the numerous government interventions to access new markets for their products, link up with foreign partners, and seek knowledge of new products and services for their clients. And I believe, young people here, you can take a cue from the owner of this venue, Mr. Sam Bennett, and what he has been able to achieve in his own country, on his own land. In the area of education, the free enterprise offers a lot of educational opportunities to young people. The proliferation of tertiary and professional studies abounds locally and on international plane. There is an increase in inaccessibility. There are no restrictions on what one can study in school. One can read from archaeology to zoology to maximize their full potential and contribute to national development. Another issue worthy of mention, Professor Chairman, is the debate of MPs, members of parliament role as legislators, and the expectation of voters of their MPs as development agents, and how this can be addressed in our new paradigm. The legislative framework for decentralization in Ghana, as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution, is Articles 240 to Article 256 and the Local Government Act, among others. Article 240 provides that Ghana shall have a system of local government administration which shall, as far as practicable, be decentralized. This includes the annual budgetary allocation by Parliament to assemblies as provided under Article 252 to support the funding of developmental projects, roads, sanitation, etc. The assemblies also adopt efficient methods of collecting rates, levies at the local level. Companies operating in the local areas must honor their corporate social responsibilities to the communities in which they carry out their businesses. In my view, the debate on MPs' role as legislators is quite clear. The legislative power of Ghana is vested in Parliament and shall be exercised per the Constitution. This is contained in Article 93(2) of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Members of Parliament are elected representatives of the people whose main function is lawmaking. Parliament discuss and debate and vote on bills to become laws. Parliamentarians serve as agents of development in several ways. Laws are necessary for the effective administration of the state. There can be no development without the appropriate laws. For example, the passage of the new Companies Act 2019, Act 992, has made it possible for businesses to be registered, boosted investor confidence inter alia. No progressive development can take place without the appropriate laws in place. It is the business of Parliament to enact such laws for the implementation of the executive. Apart from lawmaking, Parliament protects the public purse. Government expenditures require approval by Parliament. It is for this reason that the national budget is presented annually to Parliament in this regard to help avoid wastage of state revenues meant for important developmental projects such as roads, health care, etc. Parliamentarians are also agents of development because they represent the voice of the people in the various constituencies. The grievances of the people are articulated to government through their MPs, and we often hear MPs informing the House on issues concerning dilapidated school buildings, poor roads, lack of electricity and water, among others, and calling on government for attention. The MPs' common funds are money given to MPs to assist MPs so that they can also promote development in their respective constituencies through lobbying. This is by way of persuading high-level executive members through opinion leaders. And MPs often appeal to corporate bodies, NGOs, and also utilize their connection with other international bodies to promote development. But I think it's about time we see how we can strengthen the role of members of parliament in the development agendas of their various constituencies by reviewing the laws on the role of members in order to reflect the expectation of the elected, of the electorate. In doing all this, we have not lost sight of the fundamental pillars that ensure sustainable development. I wish to urge my fellow young Ghanaians here today and others elsewhere to be guided by the values and principles that the founders of our country espoused. These include integrity and service. One of the ways that guarantees sustainable development at the individual and national levels is sincere service in integrity. As young people, let us not rush into doing things that are at variance with our age-old principles and values. Let us embrace sincerity, diligence, patriotism, and as always, aim at giving out our best. Finally, Professor Chairman, to that end, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I will end my presentation with a quote from Dr. K.A. Busia as captured on page 113 of the famous Axioms of K.A. Busia. You who are young have the exciting chance to build a better society, to leave the world better than you find it today. Thank you very much, and may God richly bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. John Apuntia Kumar Esquire, the hardworking legislator of Edreso, want us as youth to be job creators rather than being job seekers. We are going to hit your call. And indeed, it's a good call. Let's celebrate it. Mama yenianum agofuma bengro kakrama ye as a ha eya yidi ye woso ye ho kakra wi a na ne aka no ne ye de ato aso. Okay. 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 Now, more than thank you very much. Certainly an awesome display of Ghanaian dance and Ghanaian culture. Professor, and I know people, I never knew you can exhibit such lava notations and the dancing skills. You got me entertained. Lawyer John Kumar is asking the youth to be job creators, but not job seekers. One area that I feel can help the youth grow is the area of sport. At this juncture, let's welcome the Deputy Sports Minister to step into the shoes of his boss to represent the entire sports ministry. Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie. Let's welcome him.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. I am also back to my old region. And I can see uncles, fathers, mothers, and people who advised me when I was here. Our Honorable Chairman, my uncle, Professor Christopher Ameyawa Krumfi, the Omanyene of Global Traditional Council, who is also the president of the Pono Regional House of Chiefs, and special guest of honor for today's event, Nana Okochiridom Sechi Ako II. Nananom, fellow ministers of state, members of parliament, our respected clergy, students from various tertiary and secondary institutions, heads of departments, representatives of political parties, our media colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish to commend the Busia Institute for devoting this year's Busia Memorial Lectures to the youth. Indeed, that demonstrates the Institute's belief in the ideas of Dr. Busia, who demonstrated beyond all reasonable doubt his commitment to youth development. I read the book, Aliens of Busia, and found a profound statement, which is a quote from Busia Seminar Publications, The Challenge of Africa. And I quote, "Of all Africans' resources, her young people are the most valuable." Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this statement, more than anything, tells of the man's belief in the youth and the need to pay attention to the welfare of the country's young people. Of course, that does not in any way guarantee neglect of our older people. In consonance with Dr. Busia's commitment to the youth development, his administration placed at the center of its concerned issues of youth development and welfare. For example, famous rural development program, which has been the blueprint for rural development in Ghana, benefited the youth immensely. Among the motives for that policy was to curtail the rural-urban migration, a trend which sent many young people to the cities in search of non-existent greener pastures, and which often pushed them into undignified situations. Professor Che, Dr. Busia had a pragmatic commitment towards youth development. His demonstration carried out several programs that sought to put the youth on the high pedestal. For example, it was the Progress Party administration that introduced the National Service Scheme. In his speech to launch the National Service Corps on 15 December 1969, he said, and I quote, "Everyone can help, however much he has in education or skill, or however little. We hope training and service in the National Service Corps will eventually become an avenue to employment in government service, in corporations and private firms, and also that through it will be able to sell up their independent businesses. We want our citizens to be more self-reliant and enterprising. We want them to look less to the government and more to their initiative for self-employment." Professor Chairman, the MPP administration is an offspring of Dankwa Busia Dombo tradition, has initiated several policies geared towards youth development. Under the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration, the entire school curriculum is being transformed to emphasis on innovation, service, science, skills, technology, and attitude, which are some of the elements on which sustainable development thrives. The empowerment shall involve process of preparing the youth to meet the challenges of adolescence and adulthood through series of activities and training geared towards the realization of their potential and to make them socially, emotionally, physically, and economically independent and cognitively competent. The government's continual investment in technical and vocational education, that is TVET, is evident of the fact that the youth are being helped to acquire skills to create businesses and become self-reliant. Professor Chairman, the government, through its creative initiative, has employed about 100,000 youth persons through NAPCO initiative. This government has also completed over 58 factories out of 181 under the 1D1F initiative. This means more jobs are being created to address youth unemployment. Investment and jobs under the Ghana Automotive Development Policy has seen the commencement of assembling of cars in Ghana by Volkswagen, whilst Renault, Hyundai, Nissan are to start soon. Professor Chair, the assembling of cars in Ghana will not only create jobs for the youth, but will also help in the transfer of technology, which promotes economic development. Again, the construction of 10 youth resource centers with the 5,000 capacities across the country by National Youth Authority, when completed, will also create jobs for the youth. And I must say, we have one of the youth resource centers in Bono region, and it is located in Doma municipality. Professor Chair, although the Rural Enterprise Program has a total of 3,833 new rural businesses were established, whilst 4,737 direct jobs were also created. Through the Green Business Initiative, 75 greenhouses have been built with about 1,800 young graduates engaged. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the almighty Free Senior High School, which has about 1.2 million children benefiting from the initiative. Additionally, it has also created jobs and guarantee income for our farmers through the Food Buffer Stock Company, which promotes enough foodstuffs to feed more than 1.2 million students under the Free Senior High School initiative. Professor Chair, these are but a few government interventions geared towards youth development. And lastly, to the youth, as government is making progressive effort to create a favorable environment for you to thrive, it is bestowed upon you and all of us to take advantage of these favorable policies and make the best out of them. We want our youth to be more self-reliant and enterprising. We want our youth to be innovative and less reliance on government for employment. I thank you very much for your kind attention, and may God bless all of us.
Okay, so Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Evans, Honorable, for such a wonderful speech. We want to keep you reminded that at the front are books, many of which are about Dr. Busia. Please get a book before you go home. All that we are giving you here are just snippets of a lot of the things that you need to know about him. If you want to just get codes of his wisdom, there's a book called Axioms of Dr. Busia. These are sayings of his. You would want to get one, but the big one is the K.A. Busia, a symbol of democracy, and you want to get that book. For especially those who are students, we proofread that book. We made it such that its style is totally UK. Most of the books we see have a hybrid. It doesn't help spelling. It doesn't help punctuation. If you see the K.A. Busia here, there are no dots in the initialisms. We have lots of things in that book that you will have to learn from that classroom won't teach you. So for spelling, for a beautiful style of writing, and for distinct learning, you want to get any of our books and you will learn a lot from that, apart from the history, which is very important also. Brother, please, you may want to continue with that. Thank you.
Okay. Please, let's welcome on stage Honorable Benjamin Taylor, who is from Techiman, and he will be speaking for the Member of Parliament for Techiman South, Honorable Ajay Mensah Kosa. Let's welcome him with an applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. MC. Professor Chairman, Nananom, the clergy, honorable ministers present, government officials, good students of Bono region, the media, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It's a singular honor to represent my boss, who is the Deputy Minister for the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and also the Member of Parliament for Techiman South constituency. I'm delivering this speech on the topic, Professor K.A. Busia's commitment to rural development as a means to ensure holistic national development. Professor Chairman, it is both a great pleasure and a rare privilege to be present today to talk about Professor K.A. Busia, a distinguished son of the land. Since I received this invitation, I have been struck by the random closeness I share with the eminent statesman. For starters, we are all from this part of the land, or Ghana. We went to Achimota School, had stints in the University of Ghana. We also studied together in England. We have similar political persuasion. Moreover, our passion for national development through rural empowerment is mutual, and we both have used Parliament to pursue our agenda in nation building. I must quickly add that this is in no way to suggest that we are any close in stature, pedigree, and achievement. Of course, I was not the first Black African in neither University of Oxford nor my alma mater, University of Nottingham. I'm not a sociology professor of international repute. I'm not the first African to have a chair named after me at the University of Ghana. I have not led a political tradition into government as yet, and also have not become a Prime Minister of Ghana yet. Professor Kofi Abrefa Busia did all these and more. Ladies and gentlemen, I must say I have been curiously intrigued by today's theme, which seeks to explore the commitment of Professor Busia to rural development and holistic nation building. The source of this intrigue first relates to the question, how do we effectively measure commitment? Unlike earthquake, which is measured with a Richter scale, and also thermometer, which we use to measure temperature of substances or body. I don't know the scientific tool for measuring commitment. In that aspect, I would argue my points on these following enumerated bullets. That is, the persistence he displayed, the sacrifices he made. Thirdly, the courage to believe and the convictions to act on a cause. And last but not the least, in this case, the achievement of desired results from effort that may demonstrate his commitment. Professor Chair, the source of my intrigue relates to the question of what is the point in assessing the commitment of a personality who sadly passed on some 43 odd years ago. This question, I presume, this event is an opportune moment for us to reassess and highlight the substantive contribution of Professor Busia to developing our beloved country, focusing mainly on rural development and transformation. The expectation is that a demonstration of his commitment and enormous expectation is enviable achievement for himself, his party, the nation, and his commitment will inspire us to reach for our inner greatness and honor our pledge to Ghana. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen gathered herein, with all the courage I can muster, I argue that any fair-minded assessment of the exploits of the venerable Professor Busia will conclude that he remains one of the foremost Ghanaians who deeply cared about a holistic national development. His thoughts were revealed when he argued in the National Assembly, which is equivalent to our present-day parliament, that, and I quote, "Concept of poverty should not be seen only in the terms of cash or scarcity of underdevelopment of material resources, but also in human conditions, in disease, in ignorance, in lack of training and education. And the first essential requirement for progress is the development of the human being." From here, ladies and gentlemen, we can appreciate how he understood the main challenge of the time, hence, or that is, reducing poverty. The challenge for our generation is to build a Ghana beyond aid. Without doubt, his humble background and his education in sociology, anthropology, or social anthropology must have hugely influenced his unique perspective, which later drove his premiership of the Ghanaian state when he had the opportunity between 1969 and 1972. Professor Busia was convinced about the need for a holistic nation building and displayed it openly. In fact, this is mostly seen in his enthusiastic and erudite arguments about the type and nature of states Ghanaians deserved. For instance, when the dictatorial and authoritarian tendencies of the CPP administration embedded in a package under the guise of the Avoidance of Discrimination Bill in 1957 to 1958 was revealed, that then Dr. Busia was quick to kick against and object and point out that this was bad for our country, Ghana. To Dr. Busia, I quote, "Our problem is one of nation building, and you do not do it by repressive legislation, but by leaving parties and policies to the choice of the people." Ladies and gentlemen, I continue by quoting, "Let us not suffocate the civil liberties of the people under petty and pernicious pieces of legislation. If we want to build this nation, a democratic way is open to us. Let us do so by cooperating." End of quote. Professor Chairman, from this perspective, we can understand that Professor Busia believed that the foundation for holistic nation building was from the framing of a laws and the pursuit of democratic principles. These convictions emboldened and energized him to join forces with other interest groups to form the United Party, popularly known as the UP, in 1957, which is seen as the forerunner of the current NPP, that is the National Patriotic Party. It is instructive to note, ladies and gentlemen, in forming the UP, he had gone great lengths to assemble and persuade diverse groups of people, such as the Ghana Congress Party, GCP, the National Liberation Movement, LNM, the Northern People's Party, NPP, and the Togolese Congress Party, which is the TCP, and also the Muslim Association Party, MAP. Finally, he also did so with the Anglo Youth Organization, AYO. Serving as its parliamentary leader, Busia defended and articulated reasons to position on how to transform this nation and our beloved country, Ghana. Being a constant thorn in the side of the government, it became apparent that his safety could not be guaranteed by the state. So he eloquently spoke of and defended. The outcome was that he had to sacrifice his comfort and ran into an exile, teaching in Holland and England. The cost of that exile and the impact of it had on him can only be imagined. As things will be, the bright lights of the passion and commitment of Professor K. Busia had shone through some of us to see. As a result, the National Liberation Council, NLC, which overthrew the CPP-led administration, appointed him the chairman of the Center for Civic Education in June 1967. Assuming this task, especially given the turbulent political legacy on the past government, was far from easy. Yet, Busia persisted and traversed the length and breadth of our dear and beloved country, Ghana, trying to engage citizens on the ideals of democracy, rights and responsibility, public service, integrity, tolerance, and also belief. Recognizably, these ideals remain and the bedrock aspiration of our national life. Ladies and gentlemen, so far, what I have done is, in the above accounts, I would hope, in some measure, is an illustrative of how committed Professor Busia had become to building a holistic and all-embracing Ghana. What I have not done yet is to demonstrate to you how his commitment to rural development will become a main driver of building a resilient Ghana. This is so because up until he tasted executive power in the year 1969, there was no opportunity to exercise public policy in the direction he chose to do so. It is to this point I now turn my attention to. Through the combined efforts of many compatriots, multi-party democracy returned to Ghana. Dr. K. Busia and his colleagues who had formed the then Progress Party, PP, launched their campaign for elections in Ho in the year July 1969. By 1st September 1969, the Progress Party had won 105 seats out of the 140 in the National Assembly, paving way for Dr. K. Busia to become the Prime Minister. Thrusted in public office by an overwhelming popular vote, the new Prime Minister and his government set about initiating policies and implementing them vigorously. Ladies and gentlemen, even though Dr. Busia-led government made major strides in our areas such as international relations, human rights, and political freedoms, where there was no single political prisoner as compared to the 1,377 persons under the CPP. I will limit my discussion to the rural development exploits of the Venerable Professor Kofi Abrefa Busia at this point. Nananom, permit me to continue. In that, when Dr. Busia ran the affair of the state, he was convinced that it was unrealistic to achieve sustainable economic development solely by improving the lot of urban population. In fact, redressing the development imbalance between urban and rural areas of Ghana was stated as a cardinal aim in the manifesto of the Progress Party. in the 1969 election. Unlike Nkrumah, who was before him, Busia saw the future of our dear nation Ghana in terms of rural industrialization, as opposed to the urban industrialization and unsavory massive rural population drift that invariably attended the latter. Busia noted that in his campaign in Kumasi, which is in the year 1969, and I quote, "What about the problem of unemployment, which gives us so much concern? This will be tackled on several fronts by expanding our agricultural and industrial products and coordinating them in such a way that industries will be established in areas other than the existing main centers of population by effectively coordinating our educational system and applying the facility for training in a better way." End of quote. In seeking to implement these whilst in political office, Busia-led administration or government established the Ministry of Social and Rural Development to coordinate and implement carefully designed programs to improve social economic lives of the people in the rural areas, as had been already said by earlier speakers. A major plank of Busia policy was the National Service Corps, NSC, which tapped into the communal spirit of Ghanaians. The NSC increased production of selected staple foods, and by staple food, I mean cassava and maize, by cultivating about 4,000 acres in major region, while using about 3,000 labor force from each region. This meant direct employment to many rural folks and stable market prices for these commodities. The NSC also supported the provision of potable water, construction of feeder roads, health facilities, expansion of electricity to rural communities. When J.H. Mensah, of blessed memory, the then Minister of Finance, read the 1970 budget for Busia government, substantial funding was directed to its well-designed rural health facilities and rural water development programs. Even when the local government bodies, for reasons of weak financial and organizational conditions, could not sufficiently support, the Busia government dedicated itself to running the many village water supplies. Indeed, the National Feeder Road Construction Program was supported in 1970 to reach its target of 500 miles per annum by the end of 1970. The coordinated and collective pursuit of health, water, roads, and electricity initiative for rural folks in large measure reveals the government perceptiveness of the interconnected nature of the rural problem. To sustainably accelerate the improvement in the quality of lives in rural areas, Dr. Busia passed the development levy, which was used to establish the special fund. In a personal demonstration of commitment, Busia also contributed 1/3 of his salary into the fund of the rural development. This point, which has already been said by earlier speakers. In addition, all members of his government also took a cue and contributed substantially their wages into the same fund. Ladies and gentlemen, through this and other coordinated interventions, Professor Busia, in its 27-month stewardship over our state, our beloved country Ghana, had significantly contributed to improving the quality of life across country, emphasizing the rural folks. Such was the achievement of the Busia government in rural empowerment, that the Progress Party government was named the rural government by many social commentators. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps an unintended consequences of these transformative interventions was that it became increasingly possible for foodstuffs to reach urban centers more easily, thereby reducing the cost of living for even urban folks. I dare say, in all likelihood, The results of Busia's rural development exploits must have informed and inspired the Operation Feed Yourself, OFY program, which was led by the Ichampong National Redemption Council administration some 2 or 3 years later. Professor Chairman, a great American said, and I quote, "There is a mysterious cycle of human events. To some generations, much is given. Of other generations, much is expected." End of quote. What is clear is that Professor K. Busia and his government had a huge rendezvous with his destiny of rural folks and the entire nation in a rather short time. The effects have been long-lasting, to this extent that Professor Busia's premiership had been christened a rural government, and to that extent again, that structural and innovative ways were found to make better and effective use of rural labor and land, to the extent that rural lives were transformed and made more livable. I argue that the government of K. Busia had demonstrated its unalloyed commitment to the Ghanaian people, irrespective of their locations. As is the nation of nation building, others that succeeded him has taken the inspiration and entrenched some of the key tenets espoused by an eminent Ghanaian, Professor Busia. It must be fairly obvious to us, ladies and gentlemen, that the policy of the current government, which is one district, one factory, the free SHS, one village, one dam, one constituency, one ambulance, the second year of roads, expansion of the Cocoa Road scheme, and the famous Agenda 111 to provide hospitals for deprived locations being implemented by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo may now sound much familiar to these perceptions. Much as they are very original and germane, they must have been inspired by the steps and successes chalked by the giants of Ghana by name Professor K. Busia. Professor Chairman Nananom, I end by saying the aim to build a Ghana that is beyond aid, is our charge that we have to keep, and it's a nation that we have to build. And by so doing, we have a God to glorify by these deeds. May God continue to bless the foresight of our eminent forebearers. May the Almighty God continue to bless our party, the MPP, and its members, and also the executives leading the party. May God continue to bless Nananom of our land, and also God continuously bless our regions, the Bono region, Bono East region, and also the Ahafo region. May God continually bless us all, and may He make our nation great and strong. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So gradually the program is ebbing to its close. We want to thank you for your self-control, listening to the speeches. Your leverage is about to go. We've listened to many people, and once again, we're privileged to listen to somebody who is a blood relation to the man we all are celebrating this day. This person is an associate professor and a research fellow from the Institute of Commonwealth Studies from the London University. He's also a member Inner Temple Inns of Court of England and Wales, UK. He's a consultant in many companies, for many companies. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, allow me to introduce to you Professor K.A. Busia Jr. His K.A. is Nana Kwesi Appiah. Nana, please You're welcome. Please, let's clap for her. Thank you. So after that, now we will take two more, just one more, then we are done. One more from Bishop, then thank you.
These are okay.
Representative of His Excellency President Kufuor here present. Chairman and brother Professor Amir Kufi. Nana, okay. Nana Ndrobo Hene Okuchiri Dom Sechiaku II, Nananum, honorable ministers here present, honorable members of parliament, DCs, MCs, party members, the clergy, media, rep of the Busia Institute, and kinsmen and friends who have come from Wenchi to witness this event. It's customary for speakers to say we are pleased to be here, and I will say that, but I do mine with sincerity for twin reasons. Reason one is unique to be associated or share a common platform with all the persons who have come before me. Nana Drobohine, Professor, His Excellency the President, and all the speakers. This is unique. There are people you just see in the newspaper, and those who are so as to be with them here is really an honor. Secondly, the other reason for being pleased to be here is that as a member of the family, honoring Majapani, my senior father, in English, uncle, is certainly flattering to be here with all the others. The team assigned to me this afternoon is challenging, but I would endeavor to live to the task. I have been asked to speak to Busia, the youth, and Pan-Africanism. I suppose, as Honorable Ajay Dako said, an objective of this meeting today is also to attempt to address some of the misconception and sometimes the facile and easy views projected by media, or when Busia is dragged into the arena of politics, some of the mad stringent, which doesn't really bring out some facts. And trained as a scientist, and also in law, evidence, data, and proof is the scale we use. Mr. Chairman, let me, as a point of departure, situate this youth question in its proper context. In the developed countries, this may not be a relevant question. It's relevant to us because, curiously, we are having low mortality rate in terms of early mortality, but rather fertility is going up. In other words, our women in Africa are giving birth successfully, and we are not dying as we used to do. The net effect of which is that we have a younger population in Africa than any other part of any continent. According to World Bank, as of 2011, 28% of young people in the world were to be found in our continent, Africa.
In fact, most countries, as high as 75% of the population are between the age of 15 and 29. This has developmental implications. In other words, how do you harness the skills? What becomes of these people who are growing up and are available for the job market in case the job market is not there? Unemployment, and if there is unemployment, it has several ramifications, including national security and others. Professor Busia, as we have heard, understood this very well. And the policies that have been recounted and eloquently argued and presented by previous speakers, I need not add anything to it, nor am I competent as they are to speak to the same. Consequently, as the learned brother and friend, Professor Obrebuahin said, I'm also going to depart from the previous speakers, but in a way that is still related, distinct but not unrelated. What I'm going to put before this meeting of August persons is to try and take Busia away from the local level of its policies and politics into the international system. That is also something I slightly have a better understanding of, as a student of international law and a practitioner thereof. The issue is, if the youth question is a development question, and in fact, much of youth unemployment is a function of underdevelopment. If so, increasingly, it is becoming clear that development in one country is impossible. These days, to set up as a small post-colonial state as Togo, as Benin, as Ghana, to develop is a challenge. It is not for nothing that if you look at countries that register higher targets of development, you find them in China, you find them in Brazil, you find them in India. Even a strong economies like UK, Germany believe they can't work alone, but they have to come together and create a bigger integrated market so that their youth, among other things, would have a sense of business and professional accomplishment, their skills and what have you. The question therefore arises naturally. The Professor Busia, as we've heard, had a vision, had a view. Did he have a sense that in his time, did he have a sense that Ghana also needed this sense of relating to other Africans and having a bigger market, as we have now our ECOWAS, our SADC, and even where the free trade zone as we have? The answer is yes. And what I seek to do in the next couple of minutes is possibly to surprise those who do not know that Busia was a Pan-Africanist. In fact, Busia shared a lot with Kumar on Pan-Africanism. President Chairman, I need not be kicked out from this podium for saying that, but I'll prove. In Africa, as elsewhere, we say big is beautiful. The more countries that have to trade together, the better it is for the economy and for the youth. Like I said, this has always been on the agenda from the 1960s to as recently as 2007, what we call Accra Declaration of Union of African Government. The Union of African Government, where trade barriers will not be there, was envisaged by Nkrumah and also by Busia, where there's free movement of labor, including youth labor. Pan-Africanism also has another dimension, as I will tell you. It is important, and I read Sam Bennett's biography overnight when I got into the hotel. His success, and that's what Busia was striving for, is for the African youth to have a sense of identity, a sense of pride, a sense of an Africanness, which is the beginning. You can't develop if you have a doubt, self-doubt as to who you are. And Busia was very strong and emphatic on that. But it's curious also, as I began by saying, Professor Busia has been presented, especially in the political discourse, partisan political discourse, as a Western man, very much Nigerians will say Oyibo man, who, as Oxford done, is closer sometimes to a white than an African. Nothing is further from the truth. Professor Busia, I remember as a young boy in my father's house in the palace, there were stories. Always there was bigger boys or people, pages there who would tell you stories. One such, as Nana recounted, we also had similar ones about what Nana describes as myth. We also had some. One such is that, apart from the fact that there was an examination in the whole world and he came second, beaten by only his teacher, I don't know who that teacher was. There's also a story that whenever Busia was out of the UK, the Queen felt very unsettled and even quite unhappy. All because she has received letters, communications that the language he can't make sense of, so he has to wait for Busia to come back from Ghana. And immediately Busia arrives in Heathrow Airport, he is whisked straight by the Queen's guards into the Buckingham Palace. And then, Kofi, I'm happy you're back. Can you explain to me these words and sentences? Because I can't understand the English. And then Busia would really do that for the Queen. These stories point to a direction to say that this is a Western man. But he wasn't. He was very African and traditional. Therefore, permit me to start the conversation. What is Pan-Africanism that we can say Busia was a Pan-Africanist? And it's a relevant question internationally among academics of the Caribbean, African Americans, Ghanaian academics. It's a relevant question of politics. I mean, if you saw the celebration in September. So it's important I shoulder that burden and dispose of it. Pan-Africanism is get involved with, this is not a forum to detain anyone and waste anybody's time on academic niceties. Suffice to say, it can be reduced to 3 levels of what we mean by Pan-Africanism. 1, to accept your Africanness, that I'm an African, and then see the sense of what Nkrumah and Busia call African personality. African personality meaning that you are proud of who you are as an African in terms of your food, in terms of your dressing, in terms of your language, in terms of your culture. That is African personality. And that is the first ingredient and requirement, in fact, the fundamental one for Pan-Africanism. The second one, and important, is where the countries, as we have inherited them, the sovereign states, realize that development in one country is impossible. Therefore, let's team up resources together, create an integrated market. This is what we do through treaties, agreements, ECOWAS, SADC, and that you cooperate in economic, technology, security, and trade. But you surrender some of your sovereignty. That is the state power. That's why we have ECOWAS 1975 and others. That is Pan-Africanism. The maximalist position, that is the ultimate of what Pan-Africanism is about, is to create one union government where the sovereignty of every state is surrendered for one entity we call African Union. Nkrumah constitutionalized that Ghana's sovereignty could be surrendered for such a purpose. And he pursued that. In our history, 2 schools evolved. Those students still doing their government, remember the Casablanca group and the Moravian group. The argument was African Union government now, Nkrumah Sekou Touré Modibo Keita, to create, it's economic, to create a development strategy of that. Then there were those who said, let's start with economic bloc. They called them the functionalists. Then gradually over time, we can get to a situation where because of our commonality, it can be translated or will spill over to become a union. Busia belonged to the second group, and Busia was convinced we needed it. So, Chairman, let me make a few quotations to show Busia's belief in African personality, economic cooperation, and ultimately the three definitions I've given to see if really he was. One, in Sunyani here in 1969, after he has sworn in as Prime Minister in October, he came, met a Deborah of Nananum. I think that time Domahe was the president of the house, the region, and Busia had this to say, permit me to quote. We have no reason to be ashamed of our ancestry. On the contrary, we have reasons to be proud of our heritage. He talked about the drums that was speaking was the drums of his own ancestors. Of course, you know, he's also from a royal house. And he was so proud to be in Sunyani. Busia, I mean, every scholar would tell you, the theme a scholar chooses for his research always has some biases of value. Busia chose chieftaincy. And you know, that's where he did his major work on chieftaincy. It's all because Busia believed, wrote, spoke that chieftaincy as an institution of ours, using the Ashanti and the Wenchi example, had a better mode of governance. Almost, I mean, better, if you wish, better mode of governance than perhaps some of the modern states. He also recognized that these institutions were democratic, allowed for discussion, and allowed for dissenting view. And of course, his writings on this are prolific. He believed in our indigenous institution of chieftaincy. There's a Ugandan scholar who says the political is also personal. You can't be speaking politics when your private life is also different. There was a consistency with Busia. No Busia bears an English name. No Busia's child bears an English name. Abina, Dompama, Nana Frema, Nana Nyani, Ampong, Jama. Nobody uses an English name in that family, nor his own children. Evidence of his Africanness. Busia in Oxford was not allowed to put on kente cloth during Oxford dinners, but he did, even to the point of being punished. And our friend Anamieje chronicles it so well. So this is the man who had no doubt about his Buno, his African identity. What is more, and very critical, Busia in his independence speech in the AU and OAU condemned racism, was against colonialism and its mistreatment of Africans. In fact, his first visit to UN in October 69 with Victor Husu and J.H. Mensah, his speech dwells a lot on condemning apartheid in South Africa, as it were, condemning Rhodesia's unilateral declaration of independence, as it were, and was consistent, even in criticizing other Africans and other states for imposing what he termed half-hearted sanctions. He felt racism, colonialism were flawed thinking without any scientific basis, and therefore should not be allowed. He was against that. He condemned Portugal for the type of politics and policies of Portugal in Southern Africa. So Busia took the view that Africa has to be. In his seminal work, Africa in Search of Democracy, he has this to say. Mr. Chairman, permit me to quote it briefly. In terms of treatment of colonial subjects, that's Africans, colonialism is on the debt side. He thinks colonialism made a contribution, but his view that colonialism is very bad in terms of Africans. Assimilation, which was going on in the French countries, where Africans were being made to discard their cultures and become white, like Senegal, like Cote d'Ivoire. He condemned it and believed with Senghor and Meshizah on the issue of negritude. Busia supported negritude, that African has to be African, and African need not be made a white person. Where he parts company with Nkrumah is what I'm about to speak to. Nkrumah believed with Du Bois, and later, of course, that's some of his advisors, but Modibo Keita, Sekou Touré, that we needed African government now. Remember the OAU conference. Busia, on the other hand, said and written that he does not disagree. Even he supported the union of Ghana, Guinea, Mali. He did. In Parliament, he spoke about it, although he said the opposition was not consulted. But his only issue is that we cannot enact a union government. It has to come incrementally when we create economic blocks. For his time, therefore, he was very impressed with the Africa Development Bank, which was created, and advised that OAU cannot be converted to a union government. Rather, he cited the example of the European Union, which started as steel, came into European EEC, European Economic Commission, and of course, in recent times, a treaty of a union. This is what he foresaw OAU to be. So with that, he saw that it is desirable for economic development or economic strategy that we have a union of African government where sovereignty is surrendered. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Professor Chairman and brother, let me now, with the benefit of hindsight and time, see who has time belied or confirmed. In other words, which of these approaches has been supported by recent history? Whether enacting a union government there and then, or having economic blocks that what he calls functionalists, where common security arrangement, common economic and currency arrangement, common technological sharing, intelligence sharing can spill over into a union. Curiously, the person who has studied this more is a nephew of His Excellency the President, Professor Kofi Otinkofoɔ of University of London, who came out with a book, studied every detail of this. And his conclusion is very simple, that we all would wish for a union government, but nowhere has it ever succeeded. That pre-existing sovereign states never, ever come together to form a union government except by war and violence. Consequently, the United States came about because of civil war. Russia came about because of 1917 revolution. The European Union because of 1945 war. And in reviewing, I said even our own Ashanti Kingdom. Ashanti Kingdom is one of the best federations or confederation you can think of. But Ashanti Kingdom came about because of Denchira War. Otherwise, Mampong, Jabin would never have surrendered their sovereignty. It came about. So here, his thesis and what Busia and others were saying is that, listen, we cannot achieve this unless by incrementally, as we see in the European Union. To end this speech or presentation, I would do injustice if two issues that on the face of it appear to contradict any credentials that can be attributed to Busia are not addressed. One, the Aliens Compliance Order of 1971. Aliens Compliance Order, if we put it in context, was an enactment that was there already. In other words, there were similar statutes or statutes that existed under Nkrumah. There was a 1963 Aliens Act, amended 1965. The title and objective of the statute, was that it was to consolidate residence, deportation, and employment. So Busia did the same. That does not make it right. I would contest that the implementation was flawed. And I believe, and I'm happy, Anani too has the same. Today, that cannot happen. We have international legal regime under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Article 12.5, you cannot indulge in mass expulsion. So in retrospect, that was not there. Finally, the dialogue. And the Honorable Minister, former Minister has dealt with it very well. However, what is equally true is that there was another dimension of it. Busia did not say there shouldn't be armed struggle. He said the dialogue should go on, but the liberation movement should not be discontinued. Professor Chairman, What I sought to put before this meeting is that Nkrumah, Busia and Nkrumah share the Pan-Africanist dream as a means and a strategy of economic development, which was also to help the youth in their development. The youth in Africa, therefore, have something to learn from Professor Busia's sense of Pan-Africanism, that is African identity and African personality, which ultimately matters in any development. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. He's delved well into the life of Dr. Busia and cleared certain doubts and set certain records straight. Thank you so much for that in-depth presentation. As we close, we're about to close, we want to thank you so much for your endurance. Is plausible. We want to commend you so much for having waited, especially our dignitaries. At this point, we will call the bishop to give a goodwill message, after which we will do the presentation of books, and this session over here will be over. But after that, we will go to the Jubilee Park, all of us. That's the part 2 of this. We want to encourage everybody to be a partaker of our going there, and for us to have the part 2 where we shall do a tree planting something in honor of Dr. Busia. This is something remarkable. It is something historic. We want to be a part of it. These programs are often held in Accra and elsewhere. So thank you that for this maiden time of being here, all of us have tried to make it work wonderfully. So Bishop, my Lord, please, a goodwill message. Thank you.
Okay, so as we welcome the bishop as stage, today is a very special day on the Catholic calendar. Today is October 1, and it marks the Rosary Month for the Catholic faith. We know that since John Paul II discovered the Sieve mystery, that ushers us onto the Rosary Month. So we are blessed to have him around. Can we still continue to show him some love?
Professor Aotiegem Nana Drobumanhe Okonchiredom Sachi Akun Usanaye Bono Ahemfo Benchiemu Nabadi Achire Panini Enuanoma Hwashiam Hanyina Mahao What is it? You won't hear Crata, so I won't say, but my friend say, men play Bibia Mecca, Timmeca at the Tintinibia. Now the American say, the Asida, Nema Titri Foa. Pashisha Sensia Mui. Gidisa Fibia or Sebeyo. Na Yakai. Ya nana yenua panyini ya wofa kofia brifa Busia simpremu ngidi se nye sofui ye beka ne se Nyankopon wo hɔ a na yi nipa bi ɔde na si hɔ de na ye nhwɛsoɔ de na ye kania sɛ de ɔbɛyɛ a nkirimba ebesua no na betie na futuo. Njiri se nipa ni bi ne kofia brifa Busia. Njiri ni se Nyankopon hyehyɛ se ɔmɛyɛ mampanyina nkyɛre. Na mom kakra bi a ɔsɔ yɛ ɔno ano ɔyɛ mfinhyia mienu ne fa. Nti njiri se yɛhyia ha sei. Aka nneɛma bebree de ayɔ ɔyɛ se yɛkaaka yɛ ho saa. Na yetie na yate na okoye de abemfa so ni ebenya eye nimdie kwa Anasia Bahay, the Bapeo Yoye, Ayababisian, Tia Koya no yede. Tingi said, Sa Adisnea ya bay, Ayad Yokai, Kufia before Busia. Or see any free hako said ye, the California kind. Oh my, yen India mudo na Indiana muadono, oh ye, ya setna. Nti okasa kire ye se ayo mampanyini pen ti oni se de esi yo amanyo yate se de osi yo na manyo nti amanyofo mu firi ha kwa awo se ya manyo aye yo no oye papa chere de ye yo no sesi na yesua kofia befa Busia ne brofo de oka ye ni mfo nyini be de to ho no ba bi ho o de ya manyo kuwe ye party ye nye nipa ye ba banim na ya de mpanini de anatumi de wo ye nsem na ye de ya fasa akwa no so ama ye nya ye ho ono no kan titititititi nti amanyofo se ye kwa ye nsua mfiri saa de so onye saa de abetene ha aka bebre ye nsua hwe ahobrasiye de ode somye nananom so a ye wo ha ya tete ye mpotem de hie kofi abrifa Busia heneba na hobrase de ode som ne mane nananom yesi obi sua o firi de ende ya afa ne ho nti yeso ye kwa ya henie ye mpaninie awo se odi mu na kofi abrifa Busia o ye kania na ode kire se ono firi hɔ a mmeranteɛ ne mmabunu kofi abrifa Busia de ɔmfɛre sɛ bi ofiri Ekurase ɔmfɛre sɛ bɛka sɛ ɔyɛ Ekurase ne anaa ofiri Kwayem hɔ a ne bɛwo ne nti no bɛ wosia akyi pɔtɔ a hɔ a no tafere bi ntafere hɔ mma wo na mmom ba bibia ya hye bia no ebetimi aye bibi ho amana aye yie o kire ye se na ye adwuma ni ho ye wode nyina niam kakra bi ne ye de ani buso ye adwuma na